So the federal government is putting another $75 million into the COVAX program. COVAX is a global effort to get vaccines to poor countries. Canada intends to access vaccine doses from the COVAX program, which it is allowed to do, but it is the only G7 country so far that plans to do so. Karina Gould is Canada's Minister of International Development, and she joins us now. Minister, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, David.
We've come out of sort of the low point of vaccine shipments to Canada, with things being back on track to where it was anticipated to be. Is there any suggestion that Canada might rethink its decision to avail of the COVAX vaccines?
Well, I mean, as you mentioned, COVAX was intentionally set up to bring wealthy countries in to help purchase doses for the whole world, including low-income countries. And so Canada has been a very strong supporter of COVAX from the beginning. We're still ramping up doses here in Canada, so I think it's a little too early to make that decision.
There was a comment I wanted to play for you. It's from the UK High Commissioner, who was on the show last night, and sort of looking at how the UK, which is further advanced in its vaccination program than Canada, has decided that it's not going to take any vaccines from COVAX. I just want to play this clip and get you to respond on the other side.
I don't think there are any plans for us to access the doses, but we're in a slightly different position from Canada. And I think, countries that contribute, you contribute to access your own doses, but the quid pro quo is that you equally allow others to access it who are less fortunate than yourself, less developed than yourself.
So Canada is getting singled out as being the only G7 country that's tapping the supply. And you saw the UK, they're saying it's not going to do it. I mean, do you think this is a fair criticism of Canada?
Well, I think that it's a bit more complicated than being the only G7 country, because each country has different reasons for the decisions that they're making. I mean, the UK is producing AstraZeneca vaccines, so they probably wouldn't need to access AstraZeneca vaccines through COVAX. So there's a whole range of decisions as to why countries are making the decisions that they are. But, one of the reasons is that Canada believes strongly in the whole system and mechanism of COVAX, right? I mean, you have countries who are self-financing to procure vaccines through it, and that helps expand the pool of purchasing power for the entire mechanism, while also subsidizing vaccines for lower income countries. It's also a show of confidence in the COVAX facility that Canada is accessing vaccines through it. So there's a whole range of reasons why we support COVAX in a holistic way.
There's another international push that may have been discussed at the G7 meeting the Prime Minister was at today, but French President Emmanuel Macron has suggested that developed countries, and the G7 countries in particular, not just donate surplus vaccines down the road, but 5% of their current supply be deferred to places like Africa to help control the outbreak there. And with mutations and variants, you can certainly see in a global picture why an initiative like that has merit. Is this something Canada would consider, or is our slow start sort of stop us from doing something like that?
Well, I would say two things to that, David. I mean, the first one really is this is exactly why COVAX exists, because its intent is to provide 20% of the population of the country that is a member of COVAX with vaccines right from the get-go. And so COVAX is working. They've provided allocations to all the member countries. Those allocations are going to start rolling out in the coming weeks. So at the same time that we're vaccinating people here in Canada, because of the COVAX mechanism, people, frontline healthcare workers, vulnerable populations, at-risk populations in the developing world are going to start receiving those vaccines as well. The other thing that I would say is that Canada, back in December already, provided $5 million to COVAX to set up a mechanism to exchange doses or make donations. Because right now, we don't actually have the legal or logistical framework to do just that. And so we have been kind of working on this, for a number of months now with COVAX to make sure that that can happen. And again, while we have committed to donate surplus vaccines, we've also been working with the global community, with COVAX, with the WHO, with Gavi, right from the beginning to try and get this distribution going at around the same time.
But it almost sounds like, though, that President Macron is pitching a COVAX Plus, right? And things have changed since COVAX, since we signed on to COVAX as a country, and since it was conceived of largely because of the variants and because of the potential of further variants, like the South African one is particularly troublesome. So I mean, given the changing dynamic from when we signed up and this proposal from the President of France, is this something that we would consider as a country to divert some of our ongoing supply? Or is the position at this point simply to keep as much as we can in the country and just allow the COVAX donations to do its work?
Well, I mean, at this point in time, I mean, we need to make sure that we have a strong vaccination program here in Canada. But from the beginning, we have also recognized that we have an obligation to the world and that this is a global challenge that requires global solutions. I would also just say that, when it comes to vaccines, we have to be mindful that there are, regulatory systems in other places, which is why this exchange mechanism is really important so that, we're sending vaccines that can actually be used in other countries, also mindful of, the logistics and the infrastructure in place in countries to ensure that those vaccines don't just arrive because it's not vaccines that make the difference, it's vaccination. So there's a whole holistic picture that, to be honest, Canada has been working on and supporting from the get-go. And we're open to these conversations and we're thinking through them. We just want to make sure that, we do everything so that we actually get the outcome that's going to be the best for everyone.
So what outcome do you think this $75 million that you've announced today is going to get? I mean, what specifically does that money go towards on top of the, I think, $440 million you announced last September?
Yeah, so this $75 million is going to support the ACT accelerator, which is the part that surrounds vaccination. I mean, it's supporting the logistics and the distribution, the capacity building, as well as that, and the vaccination part itself. Because as I said, vaccines are super important, need to get them into country, but then you also need to make sure that they're not just in the country, they're actually getting into arms.
Okay, Minister Karina Gould, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.